in your own Buddha cave. As long as everyone else is quiet in there, it works very well. Of course, can I say this? Oh, why not? For some of you, if you are very adventurous, if you want to find a real cave, there's one which is unoccupied for the next few days. Some of you know where that is. And you know what I'm talking about. So if you want to sneak in there, I don't mind. You could actually go in my cave. And it's a lovely place to meditate because it's so quiet. And it's just so dark and so still. It's like you're leaving the whole world. It's a brilliant place to meditate. And I always love meditating in caves more than anything else because it's quiet, it's not distracted, it's really peaceful and cool. Great place to meditate. So you find a nice place. And then you'd find a nice cushion to sit on. And then, sitting down, they have this word which has caused so much confusion for meditators. You establish mindfulness in front of you is a usual translation. And if you're a Westerner, what does it mean in front of you? Westerners think they're in here somewhere. So mindfulness in front of you will be up here somewhere. And that's why they usually say the tip of the nose, or the third eye, whatever that third eye actually is. But if you're an Asian, not the modern Asians, the old Asians, you're in here. So mindfulness in front of you in the time of the Buddha, if they thought that's what it meant, it would be mindfulness up in here somewhere. Not in your belly, not in your nose, but up here somewhere. But that's not what it truly means. Once you get to know the Pali language, you know that it means literally giving it priority. Like priority means putting it in front in the list of important things to do. But when you say priority in English, it doesn't mean it's something you put in front of you. It means it's the first thing which you establish. So it's number one on your list of things to do. So it's not physically in front, it's in front in terms of importance. So establish mindfulness as the most important thing at the beginning. It doesn't mean put it in front of you physically, it means give it importance. Which is really one of the reasons why I say before you even start watching the breath, establish some present moment awareness and some silence. For me, those are key factors of mindfulness. If you're off thinking about the past, if you're worrying about the future, if you're off in fantasy land thinking about all sorts of stuff, how to make your first $1 million, or how you're going to find your partner in life, the one she's waiting out there somewhere for you, but you just haven't met her, all that sort of stuff, it means you're not mindful, you're not aware. You're off in la-la land. So, we want to sort of, present moment awareness and silence is just basic training to be mindful, to be aware. And that makes your first, if you like, box to tick in the stages of meditation. And this became really important for me when I started teaching meditation, and why some people have such a hard time of even watching the breathing. And they sort of start, okay, watch the breath, breathe in and out, see what happens. And they could only watch maybe 3 or 4 or 5 breaths at most. And the reason is they never did the preparation of establishing mindfulness first. They went straight on to the breath as soon as they sat down and closed their eyes, when their mind wasn't ready to observe the breath. And so because they weren't ready and prepared, they had to hold the breath very tightly, and they could not do that, it faded away very quickly. So you have to develop the preliminaries, establishing mindfulness first of all. When you're on a retreat like this, that should be reasonably easy to establish, because there's nothing much to do, there's no real sort of things to plan towards. You can't really plan your lunch today. You don't know what's going to happen. It's coming. It'll probably be delicious, but you can't say, what shall I have for lunch today? Where shall I sit? Because that's all just taken away from you. This whole idea of a retreat is so, it takes away just, all reason to plan. You know it's going to be there. You don't have to worry about what's going to happen. So it does help in a retreat like this, it's quite easy to establish basic mindfulness. And because we're not talking, it helps establish basic mindfulness. And even if you can't sort of sit down meditating, you can't walk meditating, at least you can always be here throughout this whole retreat. When you're walking back to your hut, as I said the first night, please try, take off your slippers and just walk on your bare feet. Just get the sensations of your body as the most important part of the mindfulness. You know, when you go for a walk, take off those blankets and just feel the cold. Or when it's really hot, take off the hats and feel the heat on your head. Now, not for too long. You're not going to get skin cancer after just 5 minutes. It takes much more than that. So feel life. And if it does rain, just feel that on your body as well. It brings you into this moment. And it stops you fantasizing, dreaming, planning, worrying. As I said in the first talk, because I just gave this talk recently at Dharmaloka, sometimes that's a great advantage of holy water. As soon as I sprinkle holy water on people, and you see me do it, I don't just sprinkle it, I pour it on people. And straight away they come into the present moment. They stop thinking, there's the shock of water on their body, brings them to be mindful. They're here. And I'm always interested just how children, especially, when they get sprinkled with holy water, they love it. And they start gurgling and smiling, because they are coming into the present moment and they love it. So develop that mindfulness throughout the day. This is the first part of what we call anapanasati, even before you start watching the breath. And if you want to try the other practice of mindfulness, the mindfulness of eating practice, which I haven't mentioned yet, I usually mention this on every retreat, have a look at other people when they're eating. And then you can look at yourself, you do the same thing. You have your plate, and there's food on there, and you also have some food in your mouth, which you are chewing, about to swallow. You usually have another morsel of food on your spoon, which is next in line. And there's another one heaped up, which is number 3, and you're looking at what you're going to have fourth. It's amazing just how many morsels of food ahead of ourselves we are when you're eating. And that's just a habit we have. We're way ahead of ourselves, even when we're eating. So you can imagine the food which you're actually chewing, you're not mindful of. Now you're always thinking about what you're going to have next. It's a crazy thing. So at lunchtime, if you can remember this, just do just one mouthful at a time practice. You get a spoon or fork or chopsticks, I don't know what you eat with, or your hands, whatever, and when you pick it up, you put it into your mouth, and you keep your spoon empty until you've swallowed. And only once you've swallowed and it's gone down your throat, only then think what you're going to have for the next morsel of food. That takes a lot of restraint because it goes against habits which have been built up for years. And it also increases the health of your digestion because you're being more aware of the food. And when you're more aware of the food, more saliva, more bile, more everything else is secreted into your digestive system, so you digest it better. If you're not paying attention to food, then these things don't get secreted so much. So just a simple thing like that, one morsel of food at a time, it makes you more mindful, throughout the day. And when you practice these things, you will find that when you've established mindfulness throughout the day, in things like eating and walking back from one place to another, even going to the toilet, you notice in the toilets we don't have magazines in the toilet to distract you. You're supposed to be mindful of what you're doing. And of course, that's a great place to meditate, in the toilet. Let go. And have you ever noticed how letting go is really happy? It's teaching you something. Even in the toilet, it's meditation. But if you force it, what happens if you force it? You get hemorrhoids, you get bad tummies and all sorts of stuff. That's the trouble with people. They force the meditation, they force going to the toilet, they force everything. No wonder they get sick. So when you sit there, just relax and let go, instead of force to be the control freak. So that way we've got plenty of toilets here, so you can spend as long as you like in your toilet. No one's going to be knocking at the door asking what the hell you're doing in there. So you can practice mindfulness so much. And when you practice mindfulness like that, it means that you've done the preparation, establishing mindfulness as a priority, as the prerequisite to any stage of anapanasati. And that's once you have that mindfulness there, present moment awareness and silence, it does mean that when you start doing the breath, it's easy to do. If you're going to do this, all you do is invite the breath into your field of awareness. You don't grab it and just pull it in. You just invite it, hey breath, do you want to hang out together for a little while? And this is one of the other things I mentioned on the first day of the retreat. Please treat your breath and everything else like a friend, not as a slave. Because that's the other thing which people do with the breath. They think they can control it, they think it's my breath, I can do whatever I want with it. Breath, breathe in long. That's control. Breathe in short. That's crazy stuff. And if you try and do things like that, forcing the breath, just like forcing anybody else, you lose their friendship. And if ever I did that to any one of you, telling you what to do, come on, come here, go there, then you wouldn't like to come here anymore. You come here because this is a friendly place, it's a kind place. But if you order people around, it's like that story of the two ladies ringing you up, come out for a cup of coffee. The first one, I said this already, the first one tells you what you're going to drink, what you're going to talk about, what you're going to eat, where you're going to sit, for how long. And the other one just, what do you want to eat? What do you want to drink? How long do you want to sit? What do you want to talk about? You can see the attitude is totally different. The first one you want to escape from as soon as possible. The other one you like to hang out with as long as possible. And this is how you treat your breathing, as a friend. If you treat it as a friend like that, it's so easy to watch. You don't have to put forth any effort at all, it's just there for you. In the same way that it's very easy to stay with your friends. It's no effort anymore. It's just something you love to do. So when you stay with the breath like that, you can stay for long periods of time. Now I know that the first two stages, the breath going in long, the breath going in short. Those are not one thing you have to do first, and then you have to go to the second, then you have to go to the third. These are just alternatives. All the Buddha is saying here is that just even noticing some feature of the breath, that it's long, or it is short, or it is in the middle somewhere, just giving it something of interest for you to put your attention on. Because when you tell people just watch their breath, it's just not enough to hang their attention to. They want to make it more interesting. And so because of that, the alternatives to knowing whether it's a long breath or a short breath, there's many other alternatives. Some people do counting of the breaths, but if you do counting of the breaths, don't do it for too long, otherwise you get tired. No, 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes at maximum to do counting of breaths. And for those of you who just really want something to do, my method of counting the breath is nice and complicated. That's why people love it. More complicated, the more they love it. Breathing in, 1 out, 1 in, 2 out, 2 in, 3 out, 3 in, 4 out, 4 in, 5 out, 5 in, 6 out, 6 in, 7 out, 7 in, 8 out, 8 in, 9 out, 9 to 9. And you start again, in 1 out, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, in 6 out, 6 in, 7 out, 7 in, 8 out, 8, up to 8. Then in 1 out, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, in 1, in 7, out 7. And then 1 to 6, 1 to 5, 1 to 4, in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, in 3, out 3, up to 3, then in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, to 2, and then in 1, out 1. Now that was really interesting, wasn't it? Because I can get my head around this. This is the sort of thing I'm used to at school or something. So it's just one little way, and that's 45 breaths you can watch, one after the other. It makes it interesting. But also sometimes you may find, like I did sometimes when I was trying this, I would start at in 1, out 1, in 2, out 2, now so I've got to go up to 9. In 18, out 18, in 19, you've forgotten. You lost your mindfulness. You didn't know where the hell you were. You just carried on counting automatically. At least it tells you that you were sleepy, you didn't really know what was going on. So it's an interesting one, you can play with it, but don't do it too much. And don't get into this ego, yes, I've done it. I've done one whole cycle, woohoo, yes. Because that's just more self and more ego and more spiritual materialism stuff. So you can do that just to start establishing some mindfulness and start to play around and make it more interesting. And if that doesn't work, you can do little mantras with the breath. And my favorite one is breathing in peace, breathe out, let go. So as I'm breathing in, I think breathing in peace. I love peace. And breathe out, let go. All the toxins in my body, just all the sicknesses, all the tiredness, all the hindrances, whatever it is, breathe it out. Breathing in peace. Breathe out, let go. It just makes it more interesting at the very beginning. Breathing in peace, breathing out, let go. And if that doesn't work, it's amazing just, you can always invent new ways to do breath meditation. So some years ago, I invented backwards breath meditation. Never before heard since the time of the Buddha. The first time that anyone invented backwards breath meditation. And you know what if you haven't done backwards breath meditation before, I'm now going to teach it to you. So first of all, the ordinary breath meditation, this is also a good exercise for people who've never done breath meditation before. When I say go, not yet, and don't change your posture. When I say go, I want you to close your eyes and watch 3 breaths. In, out, in, out, in, out, 3 breaths. Okay? Go. At the end of the 3rd breath, open your eyes. Now that's a very simple exercise for people. And one of the reasons I give that exercise is because I ask people who've never meditated before, how did you know you were breathing in? How did you know you were breathing out? There is some sensation somewhere, some feeling. It's not necessarily the tip of the nose or your belly, you know you're breathing in. You know you're breathing out. And that is a feeling you watch in breath meditation. Now, I'm going to do the same exercise. I'm going to ask you to, when I say go, not now, to close your eyes, breathe in and out 3 times, but this time start with an out breath. Breathe out, in, out, in, out, in 3 times. Okay, ready? Go. So you're starting with the out breath, finishing with the in breath. Then open your eyes. That is called backwards breath meditation. It should be the same, but it's not. The perception is totally different if you breathe out first and then in, out, in, out, in. And so I call that backwards breath meditation. And if you are bored during ordinary breath meditation, try the backwards breath meditation. It's different. Weird, but true. So these are just some ways of getting yourself interested in the breathing. But perhaps the very, very, very best is doing some loving kindness on the breath. And when you have this beautiful attitude of loving kindness on the breath, I've said this before, but I cannot forget when I first did this myself, and it was in the Safety Bay retreat in Penguin Road many, many years ago, if anyone went on those retreats. We didn't have any retreat centre, we went up there for weekend retreats. And just one Friday evening, just really busy, just having to rush everywhere. And when I sort of came to the retreat, having to do a meditation, and I decided, let's add loving kindness onto the breathing. So I looked upon the breath, just like a beautiful little kitten or some little person I loved a lot. And I looked at my breath, you beautiful little breath. And I started thinking, you've been giving me oxygen ever since I was born, and I've never ever said thank you to you. You've taken all these toxic chemicals out of my body afterwards. And you do that all the time, even at night time. And I never actually appreciated you. Oh, you lovely little breath. And I started to to anthropomorphize, looking upon the breath as a being which I could love and care for and show gratitude towards. And that was incredibly powerful the first time I did it. And amazing meditations. I really got into that breath and wow, this is beautiful. And I remember that night because I went to bed and went to sleep and I dreamt I was in jhanas. That was the best dream that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely blissed out in dreaming. It was great fun. And you wake up in the morning, you go, wow, easy to meditate. Now this is actually what happened because I just added that little bit of extra power to the breathing, just the loving kindness. And wow, that's really powerful. It's easy to watch the breath. Why? Because you literally love it. You can't it's just like when people bring their kids to Bodhinyana Monastery. You know, when anybody just has a new kid, they get it to be blessed or something, they bring the kid there. And I'm usually the centre of attention during dharana times. But if there's a young kid there, they're not looking at me at all. I know that who the centre of attention is, especially all the women who come and bring the food for us. You see a little baby there, and that's all anyone wants to look at and play with, because it's lovable. And when you have this lovable little baby there, or like a lovable breath, you just can't take your eyes off it. It's just with you all the time. So that makes the breath very easy to watch. So then, you get this, you're watching the breath. The third stage of meditation is just watching the whole breath. And what that means is just a stage which happens automatically. Instead of just watching the breath go in and out, you see the whole of it from the very beginning of the in-breath. See just when it starts to arise. See it grow as the breath gets stronger and stronger as you bring in more air into your lungs, and it fills up and then it fades away until the one in-breath has finished, it's done. And you see this beautiful gap between the breaths. The in-breath is finished, the out-breath is yet to begin, and there's a pause of emptiness. And then the out-breath begins. This intake of air. So this outflow of air from your lungs as you breathe out all the used gases until you've hardly got anything left, and it slowly fades away to the last part of the out-breath, and your lungs are still, paused, waiting for the next in-breath. So you see all of those sensations. Why do you see that? It's because it's interesting, it's enjoyable, and your mindfulness is starting to expand and become powerful. In just the same way that once your mindfulness gets strong and you are happy, you can look at the bamboo and you can see so many thousands of colors just in one plank of bamboo. You can go outside and the sky is absolutely ridiculously beautiful. There's so much going on there. With mindfulness you see more, and what you see is more beautiful, like the simile of walking up the hillside. And this is just the third stage. See the whole breath from beginning to end. And the next thing which happens is it calms down. The breath gets very soft and peaceful. Why does that happen? Do you have to do that on purpose? Of course you don't. It's a natural phenomena. Because you're seeing the whole breath and it's very beautiful, again, you're not doing very much, so you don't need so much breath. The oxygen intake gets less and less and less, and as you breathe out, it's less and less because there's less oxygen going in, less going out. The whole thing starts to soften and become very calm and peaceful. You don't do that, it's nature, as you get into this very calm breath. And the next thing which happens, total nature, is just so calm, and because you're not doing very much, more energy going into mindfulness, the mindfulness is getting happier and happier, whatever you see becomes more and more beautiful, the breath appears delightful. I used to call it beautiful breath, but people said that's too visual. And delightful breath is a much better use of English. The breath is delightful. So you're watching this breath, it's lovely, it's gorgeous. It's just so happy just watching this breath go in, go out. Very peaceful, very happy. Those are the 5th and 6th stages of Anapanasati. Breathing in, developing piti, breathing out piti, breathing in sukha, breathing out sukha. But what you're watching, this important part of Anapanasati, you're not watching the breath anymore. No, it's that fact of the breath, is its joy, its happiness. That's what you're watching. It's just like you're eating the food. Yes, I'm mindful of the food, but I'm really noticing the taste right now. So it's the taste of the food which is what you're really aware of when it's in your mouth. Yeah, you can say I'm aware of the food, yeah, but it's the taste which is the main object. Yeah, you can say you're aware of the breath, but it's the joy of the breath. That is the main object in the 5th and 6th stages, and it happens naturally. So you're just watching this beautiful breathing which is coming up, which is the piti sukha coming up. And that's actually the 5th, 6th and 7th stage, seeing the whole, they call it bodily formation, the kaya sankhara of the breath. Sorry, yeah, that's the chitta sankhara, of the beautiful joy of the breath, which is now coming from the fact that your mindfulness is getting very strong. And you see that, and that's what you're doing. You're just focusing on the joy. And then the joy becomes incredibly refined. And with it, the breath becomes softer and softer and softer until the breath vanishes. So that's what you're doing, vanishing the breath in stage 8. Again, it happens naturally. Your breath disappears. And many of you have come to that stage in breath meditation, the breath disappears, and that's one of the most confusing states for people if they don't follow the instructions properly. If they don't develop the joy and happiness, first of all. I don't know what it is in modern people, but we're afraid of joy, we're afraid of happiness, so much so that we don't really bother sort of trying to cultivate it. And there are some monks, unfortunately, who say that you get attached to that happiness, so don't do it. If you're enjoying yourself in meditation, you're not a real meditator, you should be suffering. The more pain, the better in meditation. You're the real meditators, the one who sits through pain, who will not move even though that you're going to be taken away in an ambulance afterwards. One of the monks I knew, that happened to him. He survived, amazingly. He's one of the abbots in England, I won't say which one he is. But he tried that once. He said, no, I'm going to really go for it. I'm going to sit through pain. So he did that at some temple in Thailand. Sat all night, not moving. I don't care how much it hurts. We had to take him to the hospital to get a double knee reconstruction. That's crazy stuff. That poor monk. What he did that for? Because other monks said, this is a real tough monk. This is the way to get enlightened. Sit through pain. I'm not going to move. Yeah, that's what happens. You have to send you to hospital. We have to go look after him and just all that sort of stuff. So it's not just him. We get involved in his stupidity as well by having to be distracted from our meditation, going looking after him. So not a good thing to do. And the Buddha never taught that. The joke is the Buddha taught anapanasati. He never taught anapanasati. That's not on there. So anapana. So that when the mind gets very joyful, please encourage it. Don't push it away. Don't think something is wrong. I'm going on the wrong path. I'm enjoying my meditation. This is one of the reasons why Buddhism and meditation got very popular, because it was so much fun. That even if you're not getting enlightened and you don't look at it as a spiritual path, it's still just worth doing it in and of itself, because it's just a fun thing to do. So you're meditating and you get a lot of joy coming up. Encourage that. Focus on that. And I try to focus on that so much that even when you sit down to meditate, I've asked people to notice the delight of a relaxed body. If you go to Bali, that's what you pay the money for the delight of being relaxed, of spending hours by the beach in these recliners. What are you doing that for? Is it fun? Yeah, it's very delightful. Relaxed. If you start to notice the delight of a relaxed body, your body gets more relaxed. That was a strange thing which I noticed when I was just doing this about a year ago. Relaxing at Nolamara, just meditating in front of people, relax your body, feel the delight. It felt really nice. That nice and that beautiful pleasure of just the body nice and relaxed and loose, no tension or tightness anywhere. And as soon as I noticed that delight, I also noticed the relaxation deepened. And I saw the cause. When you notice a delight, it goes deeper. Same in meditation, when you're looking at the delightful breath. When you notice a delight in the breath, it gets calmer. The delight takes you into deeper calm. Not willpower, but just the delight. The mind just wants more of that. And it does it automatically. It just relaxes even more when you realize this is delightful. It's the same as if you have some delicious food from Bianca. Now, if you take a little bit and it's delicious, you want more, and you take more. That's exactly what happens with the mind, sort of. So that once you notice the delight in the breathing, then it gets so strong that when the breath disappears, your mindfulness is now strong enough to actually to see what's left when the breath vanishes. For many people, you let the breath go too soon, you don't develop enough happiness and joy to the point that when the breath vanishes, you've got nothing to watch. Or rather, the mind is too dull to actually see what's really there. But if you develop the happiness, it's one of the other reasons why I play around with you, running in front of you to open the door when you come into this room. Why I do 3 silly sadhus, why I tell jokes, why I play around a lot. And the reason I do that is because by creating more joy in your minds during the daytime, when you create more joy, you find your happiness level increases, your mindfulness is stronger, and when you start watching the breath, you can develop joy with the breath. Because the whole atmosphere of the retreat is joyful. It's not serious and hard and negative. It's uplifting, and I do that on purpose. So when you are joyful, it's very easy to meditate and watch the breath and get the joy coming up again. When the joy comes up, the breath becomes incredibly delightful. And when it vanishes, you're left with the joy. And when you see that joy, it appears as the lights in the mind, the nimittas. That's all they are. It's a mind which is very bright. And the understanding of this, 9th, 10th, 11th stages of Anapanasati, you're looking at your mind, your citta, the 6th sense. There are 5 senses which you know about. There's a 6th sense of mind. Unfortunately, and I'm very embarrassed about this, modern science has totally denied the existence of that 6th sense. And you try your hardest, and many other scientists also try their hardest. They recognize there's something wrong with modern science. As good as it is weak, and it is quite dogmatic and obstructive, obtuse, not admitting what is obvious, the existence of the 6th sense of mind. And this is actually what you see. You can't deny that when you get into the deep meditations, because that light you see is a reflection of your mind. It's like looking at your face in a mirror in the morning to have a shave or brush your teeth, whatever you do. Now it is like your mind looking at itself in the mirror. What you see is this light, this nimitta, which is the usual way of seeing it. And that's why I said on the early talks that if your mind is very pure and very happy and very joyful, that's what you see, this beautiful light in front of you, because you've built up that joy and happiness. If you are very negative and fault-finding, which is many people's attitude, unfortunately, in life, look at the newspapers and always criticizing the politicians, always criticizing your cricket team, always criticizing your wife, your husband, your kids, life. And we're always finding fault with stuff, and that just brings us down. That sucks our energy out. And instead of actually doing that, instead of sucking energy out, by having a positive mind, seeing the 998 good bricks rather than the 2 bad bricks, seeing just how wonderful this place is, being grateful to the people who you live with, being grateful to yourself for coming here. That gives you so much energy and happiness that you're actually pushing energy into your mind. you are literally brightening it up so that when the mind does appear in that ninth stage of meditation, it appears as a beautiful light. And, it's, even though that you can't predict it with 100% accuracy, there's many of you I've known for a long time. I've known you for years, and I know sort of how you behave. I know just how much you give or how much you want. And there are some people that you can actually predict. This is a very good, pure-hearted person, always generous, always out there to help you. You don't even need to ask. They're just looking for things to try and help the BSWA or the monastery or other people. They're always out volunteering for this and helping out for that. And they never ask anything back in return. What most people call pure-hearted people. And those people, they have got a pure heart. And that's what they see when they get to that ninth stage of meditation. Their mind is beautiful because of all the incredible, wonderful things they have done. And then when that comes up, wow, you have lots of happiness because you're getting to that stage of seeing just your mind. And that is one stage I love most people to achieve, to see nimittas and understand why they are bright, why they are dull, why they are beautiful, why they're just ordinary. That's where you understand some of the law of karma, all the stuff which you do in your life. And I don't need to tell you what is a pure act, what's a kind act. And it's not just doing things like putting checks in the donation box, that's easy. But it's just, you see someone else who just needs something, that they haven't got a place to stay. And, even though you've got a big family, you say, you come and stay with me. You see someone who's just got really hungry, and just take them inside and give them a meal or something. Real kind people. And you know what that is, and it's such a beautiful thing when you see such kindness. There was one lady, she's dead now, actually, and the other lady's dead as well. It gets a bit worrying, all these stories are about dead people. I've been around too long. But there was this time, there was a Laotian refugee. There's Kampun, for those of you who know her, she passed away not so long ago. And she is one of the really weird things about governments. They just mess up too often. She was a refugee from Laos, and so they escaped from the communist regime with the whole family. And for some bureaucratic error, she was resettled in Perth, while the rest of her families, her mother, father, sisters and brothers, were all settled in Oregon in the United States. So when she got off the plane, where's my family? She said, no, you're in Australia. Everyone else was in the United States. She had so little money, so she got jobs. And because she was a Buddhist, she came to see us and was a great supporter. But she came one day to the temple crying her eyes out. This was the days before SMSs and mobile phones. She got a telegram that her mother was dying in Oregon. And if that was your mother, you think, I've got to go and see her. For Asians, multiply that by 2. I'm a Westerner, okay, but I know Asians. If that's your mother dying, you have to go. Westerners might say, I've got a good reason not to. Most of you do go, but for Asians, it's really imperative. She had no money. She was a refugee. And she didn't have enough cash in the bank. She couldn't sell anything. She didn't own anything. So she was crying her eyes out, my mother's dying, I'm not going to see her. And while she was doing that in front of me, and I was trying to figure out ways of what I could do to help, there was another lady in the back, another Thai lady, who was out of work. She was a nurse, she'd injured her back. She was trying to get compensation, she was losing every time. So she was incredibly poor too. And she just got out a checkbook and just wrote out a blank check, fill out the amount you want, and signed it and gave it to her. She said, I don't care, I'll find the money somewhere. You've got to go and visit your mum. And that was just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful act. And it wasn't looking for a tax-deductible receipt. It wasn't looking for sort of a name on the board somewhere. And there was a blank check, just giving it to this lady, go and get yourself a ticket to go to Oregon, which she did. Now, people like that, if they get to nimittas, it's gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, and they deserve that. This is actually where you understand these other parts of meditation, which we don't talk about enough. We talk about sitting down, putting in the hours, watching your breath, doing this, doing that, but the other part, the beautiful part of your life, that is really incredibly important. And when you get to this stage of meditation, number 9, or number what is it again? Number 9, watching the nimitta, experiencing the chitta, it says in the Pali. This is where you get the payoff, big time. But sometimes I look upon myself as the lawyer who knows all the loopholes. Because if you haven't got a beautiful nimitta, I can help you. You've made little stupid mistakes. You've been immoral, unethical, cruel, selfish. Yeah, no, you're a human being, okay, so you're still my friend. But you can help you. So what you do with these nimittas, if they come up, it's the next part is sampasadanang chittang and samadahang chittang. It literally is like shining it up. So what you actually do, if you get this nimitta coming up and it's not all that beautiful, it's a bit dull, there's always one part of it which is really beautiful. The most beautiful part. And you train yourself to actually just go for the most beautiful part. And because you go for the most beautiful part, you focus in and that expands. And then in that area, which was once the most beautiful little part, it's got much bigger now. You go for the most beautiful part, the most beautiful part. The most beautiful part, the most beautiful part, the most beautiful part. You keep doing that. And every time your nimitta gets more and more beautiful, more bright, more wonderful. And that's great. That really works so easily. But you have to have the positive mind. If you have a fault-finding mind, you don't go to the most beautiful part of your nimitta, you go to the ugly part, the one which is dirty, because that is, your habit. When you go and to the food, you see the plate which is dirty, you never see the clean plates. And that is just a very negative attitude which people have, always looking for the faults in life, the mistakes in another person, rather than noticing the beautiful qualities. I've trained myself, not just in meditation, but in life. When I see a person, they've got your faults, but I just don't look at those. I look at your beautiful part. When you go and see prisoners, who've done these terrible crimes, you don't look at the crime, you look at the other part of the person, the beautiful part. And because I do that, that's what I do with nimittas. There's a dirty part of the nimitta, doesn't matter. I'm looking at the beautiful part. And when you look at the beautiful part of that, you've got such a positive mind. Wow, nimittas get very bright and very beautiful. And just the prisoners you go and see, what you see is a beautiful part of them. And they're great people. So kind and so generous, these thieves. They are. There's one of these really famous criminals, for those of you who are English, Ronnie Kray, the Kray brothers, they were notorious in UK. And I managed to go and see him once, and he said, whenever I get a couple of quid, I'll send some to your monastery. And this is this murderer, he's a psychopath, I think it was over in, what was that? I think it was Belmarsh or something, some really place for criminally insane people. But he had this generosity, saw a Buddhist monk, if I had a couple of quid, I'll send some to your monastery. A quid means a couple of British pounds, it's the slang there. So they're some really nice people. These murderers and thieves and gangsters. No, he didn't have it. He died. He couldn't find it. He was in jail. His business model was broken. So anyway, so that when you see that nimitta, you have a beautiful mind. It's very easy to actually go for the most beautiful part of it, and it grows and grows and grows. And there's nothing you can do. You'd never be able to decide to do this, because if you're making decisions like that, it's just too subtle a state of meditation, you just destroy it. But you don't need to, because I said this morning yesterday about programming mindfulness. You put the instruction in beforehand, and when you need it, it comes up. And now you don't have to worry, because I'm now just putting in that program for you. Just because you've heard it. When it gets to these deep stages of meditation, it's incredible. The mind remembers everything and knows what to do. It just needs that little bit of instruction from somebody else who knows what they're talking about. And you will do that. You'll have a Nike nimitta comes up. It may not be the most beautiful one. Now you will go to the most beautiful part of that nimitta. And afterwards you say, why did I do that? And you remember because of what I said. That happened to me with Ajahn Brahm so many times. You get to a stage in meditation, intuitively I knew what to do. And afterwards I say, how did I know that? And I remember when Ajahn Brahm told me, sometimes months or years beforehand. So these instructions, they lodge in the mind somewhere, and they come up in the deep stages of meditation to push you all the way through. So there you get this beautiful bright nimitta. The next problem with these nimittas is stabilizing them, because they move all over the place at first. And that was a very difficulty for me for years. Nimitta was always moving around the place. Beautiful, but it could never keep it still enough to get into the jhanas. And the moment where I figured out what it meant, now these are insights come on really the weird moments of your life. It was when I was just shaving one morning. I noticed that the person, the image in the mirror was moving. And that sort of, something sort of clicked in me. Exactly. The nimitta is moving because me, the one who was watching, was moving. The image in the mirror when I was shaving, that moved because me, the shaver, I was moving. And I realized that what I had been doing, what many people are doing, you see the image, as it were, of this face in the mirror moving. You try and hold the mirror still. Of course, the image still keeps moving. It's nothing to do with the mirror. It's the one who's watching. So when I was get these nimittas coming up, I, as it were, imagine this thing which is watching, that's moving. That's why the nimitta is moving. So I'll be still. When I was still, the one who was watching, this is just a metaphor. When I imagined this one who was watching being perfectly still, then my nimitta became still. It is a reflection of this thing which is watching. You're seeing a reflection of your mind. So when I was still, the nimitta was still. Problem solved. And then you just, after a while, the energy just really starts to build up now. Of course it does. There's nothing moving. It really starts to build up. And then you start to get into the incredible jhana states. And I don't like, these days, I don't like describing the jhanas too much. One of the reasons is that I wrote these books and I talked all about these jhanas. And this man came along to our monastery and to meditate. He read my book and then he started describing all these incredible meditations. And Ajahn Dhamma was there at the time, and he came to me and said, this guy, he's a natural. Now he's describing all these incredible deep meditations. And I listened to him, what he said he described, what he felt, and it was incredible. It was jhanas, and he'd just come to this monastery. At least that's what it felt like. But I must be honest with you, I did have some reservations. There's something wrong here. And he was saying he was meditating 6 hours or 7 hours a day, going into deep meditations. Until one of the anagarikas walked past his room when he was supposed to be meditating. He was fast asleep. He was sleeping most of the day. He was a street kid, who'd learned how to lie, incredibly convincingly. He read the book. He learned what a jhana was. And his ability to lie would be something which politicians would be envious of. He could be incredibly convincing. And he certainly fooled Ajahn, and he almost fooled me as well, about sort of what the jhanas were. And if you give people too much information, sometimes you fabricate these experiences. So sometimes you keep a little bit of information back. So when you come and tell me what you were doing, I can actually check whether it's real or not. But there are some things which is high bliss states. Very, very aware. You're super aware. So you're not dull at all. You haven't just disappeared somewhere. And just, I was half an hour went past. And it must have been a jhana. It was not a jhana. It's just, you're blown away. You're just incredibly powerfully aware. Really blissful, super awareness. And it has the afterglow afterwards. That's what I'm going to tell you about those states. But that's actually the 12th stage of Anapanasati. And you can actually see just how these whole things work. Sometimes when you talk about stages, I hope I was careful enough to not to say, okay, now you've done that stage for long enough, now go on to the next stage. And people ask, how long should I stay at stage 3 before I move to stage 4? So in order to avoid that misunderstanding, you actually add something else which is very accurate, and it stops the idea of moving on to the next stage. In every one of those stages of meditation I've described, the next stage is right in the center of the stage you're in right now. Just like those old Russian dolls. You know, you open up the Russian doll, there's another Russian doll inside. To get to the next Russian doll, you have to open up and look inside. Also the simile of the lotus. To get to the next layer of petals, you have to open up the layer of petals which is closed now, and inside is the next layer. It's always inside, never going on. So in all of those stages of meditation, just once you've got even just mindfulness in the present moment or silence, the breathing is right in the middle of that. You don't say, right, I've got enough present moment awareness and silence, and some people say, how silent should you be? How much in the present moment should be? Should be perfectly in the present moment, so not even any thought of the past or the future for 5 minutes, and then I can go on to the breath? It doesn't work that way. So you're in the present moment, you've got enough silence, and then you're aware of the breath. You don't do it, it's just what appears, because everything else has vanished. And the breath is the only thing left moving. And that's just what you see. So right in the center of silence in the present moment, that's where you find the breath. And you don't have to be perfectly in the present moment or perfectly silent. Enough, just you can go inside to see the breath. It's like the flowers opened up, so you can still see the outer petals, but you can see the inner petals now as well. You can still see a bit of thinking and a bit of past and future, but the breath is just so strong now. Most of those outer petals have opened up, and now you can see the inner ones. And the petal simile is good because every deeper the petal goes, the more beautiful they are, and the more fragrant. And this is actually what happens in the meditation. The deeper you go, the more incredibly beautiful and joyful it is. So you've got this breath, and then of course the full awareness of the breath is just right inside the breath. You don't say, no, okay, I'm aware of the breath, now what do I do to get to the full awareness of the breath? It just happens. You just keep on this breath, and soon your awareness, your mindfulness increases because you're not doing anything. The lights in your mind get stronger and you can see more. So you see the whole of the breath. It just happens. And as you see more and more and more of the breath, it becomes even, you say, when does the delight come? The delight starts really early. It does appear delightful. That's why you can watch it. It's just very fulfilling and satisfying. And then the breath starts to get very soft and peaceful. It vanishes. And all you've got left is this delightful experience. They call it delightful breath. And it's just this delight which takes over. And sometimes you say, just what were you really watching? Yeah, watching the breath, but it was the delight was what really took my attention for such a long time. And you're in the sort of the 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th stages of Anapanasati, which the Buddha said is the same as doing the 2nd Satipatthana of Vedana, because that's what you're focusing on. The Vedana, the pleasure of just this mind and breath at that particular time. And you just do that. You don't sort of say, now go on to the nimitta. When the nimitta comes, it comes when it wants to come, not when you want it. You just keep the mind peaceful and calm, increasing the delight, the happiness, the stillness, and then this nimitta just appears. And intuitively you know what to do, always going into the center of the most beautiful part of it. So you never go on to next stages. Stay where you are. As much as possible, stay where you are. And be peaceful with where you are. Be content with where you are. Build up the contentment, which means you don't move, which means you go deeper and deeper inwards. And you find these incredible states of meditation. That is a path into the jhanas, but it also is a path of insight too. Because you realize all this wanting is the enemy, it stops you. When you want something else, you can't enjoy the stage you're already on. That's why you don't develop the joy and happiness. Always wanting something more drains all the joy and happiness. So as we develop the not wanting, otherwise called contentment, this not changing, otherwise called loving kindness, acceptance, opening the door of your heart to what's happening right now, no matter what it is. Just this is the most important thing in the whole world, whatever it is. The most important thing to do is to care. And the Emperor's 3 questions. Now the most important time. You do that sort of stuff. You just stay. Don't move. And you go deeper and deeper in. That's a journey. It's not. Sometimes people think that doing nothing is wasting time, that it's a static state. But doing nothing is a place of evolving, or rather involving, going deeper and deeper inside. Doing nothing is not wasting time. Doing nothing is escaping from time and going deeply, deeply, deeply into things. And you are the passenger. You just watch this lotus open up. You just watch yourself diving in to all these different objects of meditation. The next stage is right in the middle of the stage you just were in. Going in. You understand that's the path. All this wanting is what stopped me. All this struggling and striving and craving is the reason why I never did get anywhere in my meditation before. Now I just stand still, sit still, go nowhere. What did Ayya Khema said? Being no one, going nowhere. When you're going nowhere, you actually go inside. And when you go deeper and deeper inside, your mind just gets so blissed out. And it's incredible just the power of that bliss. A marketing tool. And somebody else said this to me the other day. I said, yeah, I remember this. That sometimes you get so blissed out that you think, the idea comes up to you, I can't take any more bliss. That no human being can endure so much ecstasy. But you can. You can always take more bliss. Isn't that a wonderful realization? You can really get happier than the sort of the limit. There's no limit. There's no Guinness Book of Records limit to the bliss in meditation. You just keep going in and just gets, wow. And you wonder just, what have I wasted my time for in this world? Just can bliss out, just sitting in the little room, just going deeply in, doing absolutely nothing. And wow. And then you can start understanding from that powerful mind. Your mind is energized now. It's got power. Now you can understand the Dhamma. Before, it was all out there for you, but you were too dull. Can't see it. Now, you're empowered. Wow. And tomorrow, you'll hear what comes next. Da-da-da. Sadhu. Sadhu.